So my name is Ute and I invite you to come with me on a journey which I find really fascinating in seeing that chronic pain acceptance does not equal accepting chronic pain. So what is chronic pain? It's 24/7, says Jennifer. 24 hours. Everything I do, everything is in pain. Brushing my teeth, having sex, drinking, beer, wine, going to the supermarket, studying, everything. There's no way out. There's no way out. The International Association for Chronic Pain estimates that 20% of humans on this planet experience such suffering. And the World Health Organization has included chronic pain into their ISD-11 as a diagnosis. How are we curing chronic pain? Well, we don't. It is persistent by its definition. And this is where acceptance comes in. Chronic pain, however, is commonly treated with drugs, with injections, with very invasive surgery. It is treated with physiotherapy and psychological interventions. These psychological interventions are acceptance-based, and they are highly popular at this moment in NHS-based pain management services. Why? Because NICE considers them to be as equally effective as CBT has shown. The question is, what is this acceptance in that setting, right? This acceptance in that setting means an active moving towards any experience you can find in order to live a valued life. If we translate this very general understanding of acceptance into the context of chronic pain, we would say it is a stopping of pain control. It is a moving towards what you want to do in spite of experiencing the pain whilst doing so. And indeed, we have a lot of research that is out there that shows higher level of chronic pain acceptance correlates with lower level of disability, physiological and psychological, which stem from the experience of chronic pain. If we look at the underlying construct here of acceptance, I think it's fair to say that acceptance in this construct is presented with a property of choice. It is presented as an hierarchical construct with radical acceptance at its top, and it is inherently positive. However, the same papers I have referred just now to also report huge attrition rates. We're talking between 25 and 50%. I think this has to make us curious whether we do know the voices, the understanding, the meaning of chronic pain acceptance of those who have voted with their feet. If we haven't, this is problematic in my understanding from three perspectives. Perspective number one, from a counseling psychology perspective, because it shows the exclusivity of theory and its translation into therapy, rather than inclusivity. From a research perspective, it shows that we might really research acceptance from a very particular point of view only. And from a clinical perspective, it might be problematic because we could push a theory that is now NICE accepted onto the client when it's actually not in the room. So, what do we do? What we did, we literally engaged with those people who weren't there. I interviewed 10 people who dropped out, stopped, didn't finish their acceptance-based pain management program. And I analyzed the data with hermeneutic phenomenological thematic analysis. You know, for somebody who is dyslexic, it took me a year to literally write these names out. You will be glad to know I'm not going to show you that I do this now. So behind this mouthful title, what for me is behind there? Firstly, with this methodology, we describe the phenomenon through the eyes of the person who lives it, whilst being aware of the context in which this phenomenon lives. Step 2, we show transparently the process of me, the researcher's, meaning making of the phenomenon. And the third step, very important I think, this methodology requires a symbiosis, a bringing together of scientific and creative writing, so that you, as the consumer of my research, has an experience of chronic pain acceptance whilst reading the stuff. What did we find? Joe Moran says, we describe the world in nouns, but we live in verbs. And I, and maybe possibly you as well, are guilty of using nouns describing processes in practice, in teaching, in your clinic, or when you do research. And yet our participants have told us that this is not just a word-class confusion, this literally changes meaning. Because chronic pain acceptance was not experienced as a choice. It was also not experienced as an entity with hierarchical properties, nor was it experienced as intrinsically positive. Chronic pain acceptance was purely the acknowledgement of the existence of the pain. May I repeat that? It was nothing else but I acknowledge that chronic pain is in my life. This fundamentally changed when we looked at accepting chronic pain. Of course, these two concepts, right, go hand in hand. But accepting chronic pain is a relational process between the chronic pain and the pain bearer. It's a bidirectional process which is moderated by significant others. And I will not go into the significant others in today's speech. In order to understand whether acceptance and its sister accepting is nurturing for the client we are working with, we need to understand how this relationship looks like. If we look at this relationship through the eyes of the chronic pain, we have to understand that chronic pain invades the other person's life, regardless whether the pain bearer wants it or not. It is called unpredictable and it has oppressive qualities. Over time, what chronic pain does, it pushes the other out of the pain bearer's life. I used to run for 40 minutes, Anders says. I stopped that one. I used to go and play football. I stopped that one too. I used to work full time. I stopped that one. I lost so many people. So many people. The pain bearer, of course, has a very active role to play in how to respond to this relationship. How is the pain bearer accepting that relationship which is pushed into their lives? And in our research we found 3 facets of accepting. We found the facet of resignation, we found the facet of automatic counteracting, and we found accepting a facet of behavioral adaptation. Let me start with a facet of resignation, and if I may, I would like to give you a picture. If you imagine you are sitting on the floor, possibly even cowering, and this dark, sticky, very heavy black cloud comes to you, over you, engulfs, envelops, eats you up. It's so heavy that it presses you down until you are sitting in the pain. It literally takes you to a place where you are giving up. The facet of automatic counteracting had a very different energy. This is a facet where the enemy is the chronic pain which needs to be defeated. People in that facet of accepting are on an automatic quest towards pain eradication. Don't let it get to you, Chuck says. Don't let it beat you. Don't let life beat you. Don't end up whining. Don't end up crying. Both of these facets, as you most probably notice, are very depleting. They were not helpful for the pain bearer. Even more, the pain and its impact was one entity which could not be separated. This changed very much when we looked at behavioral adaptation. Behavioral adaptation is change or transformation of a person's behavior, being, and acting in any given environment. If we are translating this into chronic pain, it was the active responsiveness and consistent development to adjust to an ever-changing, yet always staying pain. In this accepting facet, people were able to differentiate impact of chronic pain to the pain. They were able to negotiate with the impact. They gathered back their own life agency, and even more, they started to get control to an extent over their own life. What have I learned and you might want to consider? I have learned that this is where we are right now, really the beginning of this type of research. If we want to use processes like accepting in clinic, we need to understand better how these processes work. And should you be sitting here either suffering from consistent, persistent suffering, pain included, and or should you be a researcher who is interested in this topic, I would love to talk to you after the session here and maybe even collaborate. Thank you very much. Thank you.